guys, let's go ahead and look at an example of the Pythagorean Theorem. All right, remember we've been talking about how the Pythagorean Theorem is a way for us to find the missing side lengths on right triangles. So let's look at the problem. It says the dimensions of a rectangular piece of paper are 8.5 inches and 11 inches. Veronica folded the piece of paper along its diagonal. Which measurement is closest to the length of the diagonal in inches? All right, so it is a geometry problem. We are looking for a length, and they haven't given us a picture. So the very first thing we're going to do is draw our picture. So let's draw our rectangular piece of paper. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, as best you can though. Let's label it. So we have 8.5 as one of the sides and 11 as the other. And because it's a rectangle, we know that opposite sides are congruent. So let's just go ahead and label all of our sides. It says that Veronica folded the piece of paper along its diagonal. All right, remember that's a super important keyword for us. Another name for that would be the hypotenuse. It's one of our newer vocabulary words. All right, so let's go ahead and mark that. We'll do a little dash line. And when we add that diagonal, we can see that our rectangle is actually composed of two right triangles. All right, so we actually have two right triangles here, and we're looking to see which measurement is closest to the length of the diagonal in inches. All right, so we have two of the sides. We are looking for that third side, perfect for our Pythagorean theorem. All right, so the very first thing I'm going to do now that I've drawn my picture and labeled everything is write my formula. We know the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And that can be found on your reference sheet. So we have our formula now. We can see that we need to go ahead and label. So we've already labeled with our numbers, but let's go ahead and add our variables. So we have a, b, and c. So I'm going to go ahead and label 11 with b. I like to use the base of the triangle. 8.5 will be a, and then the diagonal will be c. All right, and we know that that is c because it's the diagonal, also known as the hypotenuse. It's across from the right angle, and it is, of course, going to be the longest side of our triangle. All right, again, process of elimination is such a critical skill. So based on the fact that we know that c is greater than a and b, we can come up here and see, all right, so c is going to have to be greater than 8.5 and 11. We can eliminate a and c because those answer choices are going to be too small. All right, but back to solving for c. Now that we've written our formula, let's go ahead and substitute. So we have a squared, so let's do 8.5 squared plus b squared, which would be 11 squared equals c squared. So we've substituted. Now let's go ahead and simplify. Using Desmos, I can determine that 8.5 squared is 72.25. All right, remember when we're squaring a number, we're not multiplying it by 2. We're actually taking that number and multiplying it times itself. So 8.5 squared, 8.5 squared would actually be 8.5 times 8.5. 11 squared would be 121. And then we don't have a value for c. That's what we're looking for, so we're going to leave that variable in our formula. We're going to continue in our simplification. We're going to add 72.25 and 121. And when we do that, we get 193 and 25 hundredths. And that equals c squared. All right, so we have our variable on one side and our number on the other side, but we are not done. All right, we're not looking for the value of c squared. We want c by itself. So continuing with our inverse operations that we use to solve for a variable, we're going to go ahead and do the opposite of squaring. which is finding the square root. All right, so just like squaring is multiplying a number times itself, finding the square root is dividing a number by itself. Or we're trying to see what number we multiply times itself to equal 193.25. All right, so using Desmos, I get my answer. It is an irrational number. That decimal keeps going. I always give myself 3 places after the decimal, so my answer is 13.901, and that's our value of C. Looking at our answer choices, we can see that 13.9 is going to be the closest to our answer, so we would choose D. And that is how we find the missing side when it is the hypotenuse, or C.